Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of the Zero Hiccup Way. We have our guest today, Laura Yecies, and she is an accomplished founder and executive in the healthcare domain. So today we're going to get a lot of insights from Laura in the next 20 minutes, especially around building healthcare tech as well as the future of healthcare tech. Hi, Laura. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing, Ayush?
Yes, doing good and very excited because I know you bring with you tons of experience, which would be very, very useful for our audience as a takeaway from today's talk. So, Laura, why not we dive deep quickly into some of your experience and expertise? Uh, Talk to us a bit more about yourself and the work that you have done. If you could just give a introduction, that would be great.
Sure, happy to. So I spent the first 25 years of my career in the tech world. So I worked in enterprise software companies such as Informix, which is a relational database company, internet security at Checkpoint, and I also worked in consumer internet such as Netscape, where I was VP of the browser division, and Yahoo, where I was general manager of Yahoo Mail. And then I got very interested in startups. I wanted to be involved with a startup, and I was CEO of SugarSync, which was a file sync and share company. So we competed with the likes of Dropbox and Box. That company was acquired by J2 Global. And then I was CEO of another startup called Catch. And Catch had a note-taking app, and I sold that company to Apple. And the Catch team ended up being sort of the core part of the Apple Watch team, which was very exciting. After that exit, I, really had a chance to think about what I wanted to do next. And I've always been interested in healthcare. I grew up in a family of doctors, and I saw the convergence happening between healthcare and software and technology, and really thought that was going to be my calling. And it took a little bit of time to make that transition, but I started consulting with some different companies. And then my first CEO role was with SyncThink. And SyncThink, which recently changed their names to NeuroSync, but they have a concussion diagnostic and sports performance oriented testing that they're focusing on now. And I brought that company to a number of large health systems and sports teams. Then I was working at Achille Interactive as a consultant for about a year on commercialization, marketing, sales, strategy. And then I was fortunate to have the opportunity to join Bone Health Technologies as CEO. And I was really attracted to the company. I wanted to work on a therapeutic. I found diagnostics interesting, but I really liked the idea of truly treating patients and improving their health. And osteoporosis and osteopenia is such an unmet need in the market. It's a huge problem. 53 million people in the US have osteopenia, another 12 million have osteoporosis. People don't really want to take the medications. And frankly, we don't have medications for osteopenia. So the idea of having this treatment was very, very exciting to me, and I was happy to join the company.
Okay, great. So, Laura, can you discuss some of the day-to-day challenges that you face as a CEO of a venture-backed company, and how do you tackle them? What are your practices?
So, we're an early stage company. We are venture-backed, but we haven't raised a huge amount of money, and so we're very lean, and that can be challenging. Right now, we're working on our FDA submission, and it's just an enormous amount of work. The other thing I would say is, you have to really focus. There's a lot of things I want to do, and we have to stay, very focused on in this lean environment, and so that's always a challenge.
Right, and I believe that Bone Health has a IoT play. Is that correct to assume? Like there's a device-related play as well?
Yes, it's a wearable medical device.
Right.
So it's a hardware product as well as a connected digital health app.
Right.
And actually, it's my first time really making our own hardware. In all my prior companies, we were doing software.
Mhm.
SyncThink had a hardware product, but we didn't make it. We partnered with other companies.
So that would be something interesting to elaborate upon. Like, how do you see the trajectory of a wearable device-based company or a hardware centric company versus the software centric company? Have you seen any contrast there in your like
Oh,
day-to-day
yeah,
outlook
I,
or
I
the
think it's
challenges you
harder. It's You can't move as fast with hardware as you
Mhm.
can with pure software.
Mhm.
It's harder to iterate, but then there's something special about having something tangible for people.
Right,
So,
right.
I like that. That's been fun.
So, can you discuss your experience working with and leading successful teams and what strategies you have used for creating successful, effective teams throughout your career?
Huh, that's a very broad question. Well,
So,
it
some
starts with
strategies,
getting,
I'd say, maybe I'll say more specifically, like usually what's your strategy around building and growing your team?
well, it starts with having the right people on the team. So, um, I think recruiting and choosing the right talent is its own skill. Being able to find that match between what people are good at and what they want to do and what the company is good at. Um, I've never worked as a recruiter specifically, but I do think recruiting as a skill, or even just moving people around, getting the right people in the right roles.
Mhm.
I think a lot of team issues come down to lack of fit. So I think that's the first step. And then for the team itself, having a clear goals, clear missions, clear roles and responsibilities.
Right.
And then finally, the leader of the team can't tolerate, kind of the politics or inner behaviors that run counter to the team. That needs to be kind of stopped early. So, I mean, people have written books about that, but
Right.
that's what I focus on.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, of course, all of this pretty much to go stuff. So, Laura, one thing that I saw amongst your experience that stood out was that you have been part of many successful mergers and acquisitions. So, can you guide us more about, mergers and acquisitions, the outlook around it, the strategy, something in the hindsight that stands out that you like to tell to the audience? That will be very, very interesting for us.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think in some ways it's sort of, there's a lot of similarities with the last questions. So, getting the right person in the right role. Um, when you're trying to sell a company, a lot of it comes down to how does your technology fit what they need? And, I was recently coaching a founder who was working on selling their product, and we talked about how would their company and product fit in the potential acquirer's set of products.
Mhm.
And, I think that acquirer had a general sense of interest, but they hadn't done, it's almost like the product management work to put the story and strategy together. And I said to this founder, I was like, you need to do it for them.
Mhm.
So, I once had a VC who said it's the job of the entrepreneur, of the investor to connect the dots. It's the job of the entrepreneur to make the dots close together.
Right,
And I think it's the same thing. It's the job of the acquirer to connect the dots that,
right,
Slack would be an effective part of the Salesforce solution, or, would Netscape and AOL fit well together, do the products fit well together? But
right.
oftentimes the person who's really driving that deal
Mhm.
has to put the meat on the bones and tell that story.
Right.
It's almost like a product plan
Mhm.
or a business plan.
Right, right, right. True to that. So, Laura, like since you are, a leader in the healthcare space, and you have seen probably like all the highs and lows in the last 20 years in healthcare. So, we would really love to know like how you see healthcare moving along in 2023, and also maybe say a 5 year down the line, any predictions for that?
Well, you know, we learned so much in the last few years from COVID around what can be done at home, what can be done at in telehealth. You know, I think about osteoporosis treatment. The specialists who treat osteoporosis are typically endocrinologists, and a lot of osteoporosis comes down, you know, managing it or treating it comes down to lab work and imaging tests. And I mean, of course, there's something special and maybe sacred to that doctor-patient relationship and doing it in person. But, you know, if you really want to speak with an expert to resolve a tricky issue on, well, you have this kidney function or this thyroid function or this, you know, other metabolic issues, and how do you, you know, think about that in the context of your osteoporosis? Well, you can have an expert look at a lot of data via labs and imaging and make an assessment over telehealth. And and there's a real shortage, frankly, of endocrinologists.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's under 10,000 in the country, and we talked about 60 million patients with osteoporosis. So, you know, how can we make that whole process more efficient? So I think that's very interesting. You know, there may be a bit of backlash to too much telehealth over the last couple of years, but I think that that horse has left the barn, and I think it's going to be very interesting going forward, and I think potentially important to my company. And you know, even like the home monitoring or patient collected data, I think there was a big rush to it and not a clear understanding of what was going to be used. And in some ways there's too much data or the wrong data or none of. Well, I think that's going to be really resolved or improved. And I think that, you know, remote data is going to play a big role. I also think, you know, this is from the point of view of my company, and I just got off of a women's health conference call. But I do think we are in an interesting era for women's health.
Mm-hmm.
There's been only 4% of research dollars going into women's health, you know, limited investment. And I think this is changing, maybe not quickly enough, but I'm excited for the next several years of innovations and new treatments and approaches.
Right. No, true. I totally agree with it, because I see very, very interesting startups coming out in the women health space. In fact, luckily, we have been part of some of those journeys as well. So, yeah, I would endorse your bet. Okay. So, Laura, one like among the last, not the last one, but yeah, this is a question I'd also like to ask from you. So, since you have been part of so many stories, in hindsight, which one has been the most interesting one? And if possible, you can share it with us. The one of the interesting.
I'm sorry, what was
stories. Yeah.
You put out for a second, what was the most interesting one?
Yeah. Which would you pick as the most interesting story in your career? Like any particular startup that you were part of, or any particular, say, merger or activity you were part of that you'd like to share, and why? I know it's a
really
difficult one.
It's
Sorry.
hard. I found
To pick one.
yeah, it's like I have 4 children, 6 grandchildren. I don't have a favorite.
Yeah, I can understand. But yeah, it's possible.
I have to say, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now, because it's amazing to me how such a common and important problem is really unsolved, and that there's not a lot of focus on it. So, for instance, like Alzheimer's disease, which is, you know, very important and unsolved, but there's tremendous attention and focus and research going on. And you know, that's not as much true for osteoporosis. And so I am really excited that we're getting to work on that. And it's something that's meaningful to me personally. So I'm I'm sort of love the one you're with. That's what I'm focused on now. I'm really interested. But
Right.
there's been interesting things from a lot of the companies that I've worked on. Achille, the idea of using a game to treat this important condition, I thought it's so innovative and clever, and really making lemonade, out of lemons. And then
Right.
SyncThink, the whole concussion space, I really felt that athletes were not as protected as they could be, and having an objective test was important. And I thought there was just a lot of innovation and really a great application of novel technology to a long time problem. So I've been fortunate of I've always found, that combination of using technology to solve problems in all the different places I've been has been so interesting, although they're all unique.
Okay, great. So last question, to stay ahead of the curve, what are your habits, like the books that you recommend, or any particular articles that you read, and any daily habits that you have? Please do share.
Okay. I read a lot.
No surprises.
Very broadly. I enjoy reading a lot about science and health.
Okay.
But I also enjoy novels. That's kind of a form of escape for me.
Okay.
I enjoy exercise. I enjoy startups are so intense. So time with my family. I love being outdoors. That's a fortunate thing in California when we're not having atmospheric rivers. So I drink a lot of coffee. I drink too much Diet Coke. I guess those are other daily habits that are part of a startup life.
Okay.
Actually, I liked coffee. I liked the flavor of coffee since I was a kid. Coffee ice cream was my favorite. So,
Which kind of coffee you like, by the way, if I may ask?
oh, I'm a Pete's gal.
Okay.
Major
Okay.
Dickinson is I
Okay.
go to.
Yeah. So anybody looking forward to have a meeting with you knows the venue then.
Yeah, pizza in the morning, Diet Coke in the afternoon.
Okay. Okay.
But I one of the things that's been it's back to your question on the favorites, but I didn't have a favorite, but I've been lucky that the things I worked on are quite diverse, and so getting to learn about these new areas, to me, I really enjoy that, and so that makes work fun.
Okay.
And
That's
easier to have.
yeah. That has a lot of deep meaning actually. So well said. Well, thank you so much, Laura, for
Oh, you're so
this
welcome.
podcast.
My
Yeah, we
pleasure.
really enjoyed it. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.